Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order. And first thing on the agenda is to approve the minutes as submitted. Are there any corrections or additions? May I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Approved them.
Second? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Anybody opposed? Okay. And before we go any further, down at the far end, hiding down at the end of the table is Gary Belair, and will be our new addition as long as the board approves him next week. And he's been with John at the budget meetings and has been here several times, so he's up to speed. So, okay? Okay, on our old business, I want to talk a little bit about the Ponce de Leon building, which is this building and that. And if we are going to make a recommendation to the board of fixing it and painting it. And so we're open for discussion. There's budgeted $200,000, with tax it'll be around $180,000.
Well, is the sense of urgency gone since we didn't have the celebration? I mean,
Well, I think the
do we have
celebration is
that kind of
gonna.
money now this year to start?
No, and from what I found from the building department is it does need to be taken care of, but it's not urgent. We could delay it till next year,
That's the way I understand it.
okay?
That's the way I see it.
So are you making a motion to do that?
No, I'm just stating my comments.
Okay.
How is cash flow?
Yeah.
I know I should have a, how is, are we exceeding budget or meeting?
I'm working on wrapping up for August, so
Okay.
I'm still in the process of that, but everything is looking in line. We haven't taken an immediate drop from what it was a few weeks ago.
And are there cash needs coming up in the fall? Do we have a handle on that? Is October a huge month of cash outlays or anything?
No, especially with us restricting all the capital expenditures that have normally taken place. We've been doing okay at the moment. Now, if we decide to go and spend $500,000, then yes, we'll take a turn.
I keep going back to that too, Kathy, because earlier in the meetings, we heard that like, October, that there was really gonna be tough. I think that you were the same meeting, that's the same thing I heard. We had a lot of expenses coming in.
All of our departments have been trying very hard to make sure we're not purchasing things other than what we need to be able to keep doing business. We've been trying to keep a good handle on that, and the financials are reflecting that.
So I guess my input on this would be that from the presentations we've heard, my understanding was that Ponce could wait and we shouldn't wait on Balboa. That we need to fix, if we're gonna fix an exterior of a building, it needs to be Balboa. Because this can wait a year.
That's my understanding.
And my understanding was that we didn't want to see the Balboa building go through another year of deterioration and potentially cause that to go downhill. The only thing I think you brought it up, was what are we going to use the building for?
Right.
There are so many things that it can be used for that I don't think we're going to settle on what that is going to be at this point in time. But I have been assured by staff that there's plenty of ideas as to what the building could be used for, and that it's worth saving and worth utilizing.
But are any of those ideas revenue producing or even revenue neutral? Because fixing the shell is one thing.
Right.
But then to bring it up so it's operational, it's gonna cost 2 to 3 times more, which
Yeah,
kind of
and
reminds me of the movie The Money Pit, a little
right.
bit.
Well,
Unless there's a revenue producing function for it.
I think you could call this 40 square miles almost a money pit when you look at it that way.
Well, let's stay on
I
the
didn't
fonts.
know-
Let's get the fonts done.
Okay.
if the committee wants to delay this into 2021, then we'll need a motion for that and a second, and then we can move on to the Balboa Club.
Well, my thoughts on Ponce is, I can't see putting $200,000 into a building that's generating zero revenue, which is what we got. Nothing's going on here. You got a social distance that prohibits shows because you can't afford to pay for the acts at that point. You have shows, depending on the shows, you lose money on the show. So I personally would have wiped my own personal check onto an investment that will return nothing right now. And far better chance of it doing that next year.
Well, we got Jason here. Maybe ask Jason, how much more is it gonna be if we move it into next year for what you got planned? $10,000, 20?
It's a small fraction.
Nothing.
Inflation, maybe a few more things.
That's just my thoughts.
Tom?
I've heard nothing that says this is urgent. We all agree it's not urgent. If we're concerned about cash flow, I'm fine with deferring it into next year. I guess I don't have a good idea of the whole enchilada, the whole capital budget, and how we're managing it. But as long as we're making, one decision at a time. If nothing else, this one seems consistent, and philosophically, I've always believed if you can't be right, be consistent. So.
You'd be consistently wrong, huh?
Gary?
Well, if this was the wrong decision, I'd like to hear the argument for that.
Gary, you have any comments you'd like to make to us?
Almost the same thing Tom said, except at this point, we do not have a needs list, so to speak. What are our real estate property needs in the future? Or is the staff growing? Is it going to grow? Does it need to be spread out? What do we need? And I certainly would not want to be part of kicking the can down the road, so to speak, like Balboa was done. And so as long as it didn't go past next year, I can see this building surviving. But I wouldn't want to be part of the decision makers who said that this facility does not need preserving. As long as it didn't go past next year, I would go along with that.
Okay. Kareem?
But as Tom said, we need a picture. Right now, we're taking snapshots, and it's going to be tough. Like filtering through the needs that the employees have. So it's going to be tough doing this one shot at a time.
Okay. Karina, you have any comments?
Just from everything that I've heard and come to understand on what's going on, I kind of agree with John, and
Don't insult him.
I can see us pushing it into the first quarter of next year, or when we feel like we're fixing to maybe come out of phase 2 and be able to start generating some revenue. I think it would be a good idea to have the cleanup done before we go open to the public, but maybe closer to an expected date.
Any other comments? Now, would somebody like to make a motion for the recommendation to the board that we postpone this painting and repair till early 2021, put it in the 2021 budget?
I'll make a motion to defer this expense until the first half of next year.
Second?
Second.
Okay. Did you get the second, Kathy?
Yes.
Okay.
I assigned it to John.
Okay.
Is that okay? He said second
Winner.
first.
I got it just underneath the wire.
We'll say the police department.
I get no recognition.
I took a photo.
All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. All right, now we'll move to the Balboa building. So my question will be to Lloyd, during your planning session, is there any indication that they want to actually keep the building until and find a purpose for it?
Yes.
Okay. So we do have an indication from the board that we want to keep the building and eventually we'll find a purpose for it.
And
So.
And don't take that wrong, I'm just saying-
You're telling us that, or we weren't making that decision, or whether it was. we were
Well,
gonna-
if you remember before, last year, they talked about tearing that whole facility down
Yes,
and then rebuilding it with a smaller,
Right.
more,
you're saying that's off the table.
that is correct. The board wants to keep the Icon building. And Charles, in his spare time, has already presented some ideas, concepts of things that he'd like to see the building used for. And then we have all these other people that have been in behind, and they would be revenue generating concepts. This is part of his bigger plan, which we haven't seen yet because he's been trying to get his feet on the ground. So part of this is a blind trust to some extent.
Yeah,
The
that's-
same arguments that were made for the Ponce Center could be made for the Balboa, except for the fact that that can was kicked down the road way too many times.
It's in bad shape.
And the inside is not as bad as you think it would be, but it will be if it continues to deteriorate. So right now, we're dealing with the outside, and the cost would be for what the configuration winds up being on the inside. And that's probably in the first half of next year project. But again, the caution that we've been given, the board, is that don't let this go through another winter.
Well,
So,
that's what
Well,
I
I tell you,
heard
I
presented.
mean, my heart and empathy is keeping it, but my head says, build it and they will come.
I know, I got it.
I would like to see something that's in writing or something that says, we're gonna get something out of it right now, build it and come. How many times have we been through that?
And I don't know what the board's getting, but from what I've heard from Stephanie and Jason is that neither one are in dire straits, like they're gonna fall apart in another year. Balboa's watertight now, is that not correct? Can I ask him questions?
Sure.
Okay. It's watertight and really won't deteriorate as long as the front door crack has been sealed or something?
The roof is watertight and pretty good shape, but the sides are not, and so that won't deteriorate catastrophically in a year or two, no. You have some time.
Yeah. And if we're watching capital expenses, if it's an either or, I'd rather see Ponce done than Balboa, because it has a use and a purpose. And I mean, from what we heard, the electrical is not up to code, isn't it plumbing is not up to code?
Well, I think she stated it was like $250,000 to get it all up to code
Yes.
inside.
And that's a bunch of
That's
change
$500,000
for,
roughly.
unless we find a tenant who wants to do finish work, it seems to me that we could put up a heck of a building for
Which that is
$250,000.
one of the alternatives that is being explored.
Well, but yeah, exploration has a tendency not to come to fruition. You
Okay.
know, I like birds in the hand.
But the only thing that I would say is at some point, we've got to spend some capital on protecting the assets that we have. We, as a POA, have not been doing that through the years. At some point in time, we have to quit kicking those cans down the road, and we're gonna have to spend the money to keep our buildings up. We have, what, 100 buildings here, Jason, that we own?
85.
You have yes, 100, 200 commercial, 100 of them are POA.
So how many of those are gonna be in need of repair next year? And then how many are gonna need to repair the year after that? So if we keep kicking these cans down the road, we're kicking more cans every year, and we're not taking care of any of them.
You know, that's one side, and the other side is we just keep pouring good money after bad. I mean, how much you wanna pour into that?
Right.
I mean, this project here, that's maintaining our asset, okay. That over there, I'm not sure about Balboa.
Well, your other option is to tear it down and build
Yeah.
a new building.
That was one of the options we were talking about in our meeting.
Yeah, the board does not want to do that.
a year ago, we were told it was gonna cost close to $1 million to tear it down and build the small place. I couldn't see that.
Yeah.
Right now, we're discussing preserving the shell, so to speak.
Yeah, that's
The
correct.
plumbing and the other parts inside are gonna remain the same until we find a use, additional uses. So, but we have to protect.
A
it to
revenue
get there.
generating resource, yes.
Why don't we hold
Well, we
off
have to
until we get
protect it, but
whatever
it's-
we're gonna do with it?
That's what we've been doing all these years. We can continue doing that. That's what this group is supposed to make
Well, if you've got
recommendations.
good ideas, well, if the idea is good, then we move forward. But you're asking us for a leap of faith again.
I'm not asking it, I'm just
I-
providing my input.
I do know that the exterior has got a lot of cracks and holes and stuff, and so I
Yeah,
worry
golf ball
about.
holes about that big around.
Well, on that one side, yes, but there's additional holes and cracks. The decking is apart, the windows are leaking, and I don't know whether we should keep the building or tear it down and build something new, but it is a great building with lots of floor space that could be repurposed, maybe not how I envision it, but I think we owe it to go through and protect the outer shell so that the interior doesn't deteriorate anymore. And I think we'll hash this thing out probably all next year too. And so is it better to spend a little bit of money now in order to make sure that the building's preserved? And then, yes, maybe in 9 months or a year, we might tear the building down, and that was a waste of money. But on the other hand, if Charles has a plan and a purpose, it might be the smart thing to do. I think protecting our assets is what we're really looking at.
But is
Well,
it
is
an
the
asset
interest- go
without,
ahead.
is it an asset if it has no purpose? And they're saying that nothing catastrophic is gonna happen to the interior or anything else. Yes, it has problems, but saving it because it's an icon, well, the people who are gonna be moving here in the next 5 years aren't gonna consider it an icon. It's a building.
Well, you have a restaurant and you have a POA pro shop that's there.
Right. This
Right.
being utilized.
Yeah, which is
Are being
about,
utilized.
which is about 30% of the structure.
Yes.
So- Some of these uses for it, Lloyd, is there anybody from the outside, or is it all internal usage, like?
There is
more
somebody
office
that
spaces?
has asked to be considered to take over a portion of the space from the outside.
And they will pay us the rent?
They will actually refurb the portion that they intend on using.
Just their piece?
Yeah. Which would take care of a lot of the internal infrastructure that needs to be taken care of.
And that's all they pay then?
No, they didn't have to pay rent too. They would do the leasehold improvements and pay rent.
One of the
Say we
things
can
that I have
rehab
heard,
the
and
outside
you hear a
when they
lot,
sign.
is that one reason we couldn't get anyone in there is because we asked so much for the rent. Is that true?
If it is, I'm not aware of it.
I don't know.
That's what one of the people at Balboa told me that works there.
Could be, I don't know. I don't know what they've done in the past, but I'm not aware of any structure that's been set up for leasing that space or renting it to anybody.
No, I think this was back when it had another Mexican restaurant that was running in there, and they said.
Well,
they
that's what I'm
couldn't
saying.
make it.
If
Yeah.
a guy owns a Mexican restaurant, wants to come in and put it in there, would that be okay with us if he paid rent?
I would think so.
Well, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there'd be no reason we would want to stop them, I don't think, unless we had come up with some other grandiose idea that was a better revenue generator for us.
Well, I think we have a responsibility to property owners to kind of deal with sure things rather than pie in the sky. And refurbishing redoing the exterior is a commitment. I mean, why go halfway on something when we have no idea of the future? From what we've heard, nothing catastrophic is gonna happen to the interior if we defer it for a year. And until we can find a use for it. Now, if those people are, saying somebody's willing to refurb it and pay rent, it's like, those types of tenants, I'm not a commercial real estate icon, but I know a lot of them, they don't usually want to put their money in as a capital improvement for somebody else, as a rule.
Okay.
No, that's
So,
correct.
I keep
If they're
going back
ready to
to,
sign tomorrow, it's another story, but if it's an idea, I think we have a responsibility to deal with.
I keep going back to
Where's the-
Lloyd's words, you know, he said, we're not broke, but we gotta watch our dollars, you know? I mean, that's- And, it's like 500,000 here, 250,000 over here, I mean, where are we? I mean, we're not broke, but we gotta watch our dollars, right?
Well, I think we still have, what, 2.5 million basically in the capital expenditure budget for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
And we don't want to spend any more of that than we have to, but, you know, and we don't know what the winter months of the era of COVID is going to bring upon us. So that's why there's been so much emphasis on not spending money that we don't have to spend now,
Yeah.
up to
And
this point.
Kathy and I heard the same thing, it was like, our big months are gonna be like, September, October. That was in one of our first meetings. And
We're in pretty good shape cash-wise right now.
Right.
Because
Right
we've
now.
delayed a lot of the capital. So we have, I don't wanna say a lot of cash, but we have enough cash to do the Balboa and some other projects in that. But when we did an analysis of where we're gonna be at the end of the year, you know, honestly, we're tracking pretty well. Golf is tracking the normal, what they did last year or 2018. You know, it's a little bit off a little bit, but only during the months of March and April when COVID was such a big deal and that. But May, June, July, and I'm hoping August will be close to what it was last year. So that in the cash revenue is coming in. Our problem is at the recreation side, we've had a lot of refunds from the fitness center because people using COVID, I don't want to go, I want all my money back from the facility. So that's decimated our revenues at the fitness center. And of course, the library has its problems and the buildings, this is part of the recreation department and the Coronado Center, so the rents that we would normally get are way off. So the rec department's struggling, but golf is holding its own. You know, costs are still very high for golf, don't get me wrong, but at least our revenue isn't way off like we're seeing in the rec department.
Yeah, I
We
think
do have a
that's
big bond payment coming up, I believe in November as well.
a what?
Bond payment for the municipal bond.
For the sewer and
Yeah.
water.
And I believe it's 190,000, it may be 290,000. I have to go back.
And that's in that budgeted 2.5 mil though.
No, it wouldn't be a capital piece. It's paying down
Yeah.
a liability.
Right, okay.
Oh, I'm
So-
sorry. The cash, yes,
Yeah.
you're correct.
Yeah. So I think the other decent news from last month anyway was that we were up about $400,000 net from where we were last year at this time. You know, revenues and costs, because costs are being controlled. So I don't know if that justifies spending $200,000 on Balboa. But we do have money in the capital budget. It's not that there's not money there, it's just, should we be spending 200 here and 200 there? Or do we get selective about where we put the projects, much like Jason's done with culverts, for instance?
Yeah, we have that
And
too.
he'd love to have that 200,000 to finish out the culverts.
Sure.
And if we can't pick up trash with the side loaders, which is coming up, and, I don't know, I can do without an iconic building and to have my trash picked up. And there may be some cost savings with that too. It's tough to decide where to spend it, but I'm not a big, personally, I'm not a big fan of the Balboa at this point in time, given our cost controls.
So when do you think Charles King might have a better plan for the purpose of that? Do you?
Swami says.
So,
In your discussions with the board, did you get any kind of a sense for how much it would cost to refurbish the inside of the building?
We believe it's about 250.
About $250?
Yeah.
And that'll bring it up to where it can be
Utilized.
used?
Yeah, but keep in mind, a lot of that was the fact that there was a restaurant there.
Mhm.
And so a lot of that equipment has got to be brought up to speed and or replaced probably because it hadn't been used for so long.
Right, yeah, that's right.
So if you were able to get another restaurant operation in
Right.
to take over that space, and if they were willing to do the leasehold improvements, that would all be on them. So that reduces our impact in the future for utilization of the rest of the space. But those are all ifs right now. And as far as Charles will, he's going to speak a little bit about pickleball and golf tomorrow on where he is on researching all that. Next week, he will give a report at the board meeting on kind of a state of the union, where he's been and what he's been doing. So I think we'll have a better flavor, but for him to put this as a top priority on his list of what to do with the Balboa Club today, when we're in survival mode, is probably not gonna happen this year. That's just my guess, but he's got some ideas on that stuff, and we've discussed them in our strategy meeting, so.
Lord, do you think we have anyone contacting some of these restaurant owners around here to trying to get them in here? Do we have anyone going out and making contact? And
I don't know that we have anybody actively doing that, but we have had contacts from those people locally.
Because I've heard comments that, you know,
Well,
some people
one-
would really like to get in here.
Yeah, one very strongly wants to get in here that I know of. So there have been discussions going on. And quite frankly, between the board, we weren't going to do anything until we had a new GM in place, as far as
Yeah, that makes sense, yeah.
pushing anything from a strategy standpoint. So,
Okay.
and the other thing I can just keep in mind, the committees are here to advise the board, and all we can do as a group is provide the best consensus advice that we
Yeah.
can on something, so.
Is that a little hand slap, or is that?
No,
No.
it's not a hand slap.
No, not at all.
It's just a fact.
No, I'm just,
Gentle, I barely felt it.
no.
The consensus I'm getting is maybe we should defer this again until we find out what management's plan is and find out the purpose for that.
Yeah, I just didn't want you to take offense if the board decided to pick it up and make a decision on its own.
And that may well happen,
And
but
that
I
could
think we should
happen.
defer this, see what Charles King has, maybe in a month or so, we'll have a better idea, and then we can bring it back.
I think that's.
And maybe we can get it pre-approved using 2020 funds, and get it going earlier than the first quarter of 2021. Is that agreeable?
Agreeable.
That's,
Okay.
I like that.
Next item
Good discussion, by the way.
is Jason wants a lot of money.
Again.
Again?
Every time he shows up, he wants a lot of money.
Jason shows up.
Again.
Well, there goes the Balboa Club.
If you would like. So last time we were here, Jason supplied us with a sheet that had projects that had been completed, were in place, and then he ran a new one, which I just handed out, I think, to everybody about, this is the priority, ready to go, the gravel's in, all it needs is a little fine grading, and then the blacktop applied. He's asking for $125,000, which was in the green, capital expenditure, to continue with this process. And there is another $125,000 in the green, also to help repair the roads.
I have new information.
Where's the 125 coming from?
Yeah,
It's on,
little green spread.
It's in the green sheet, or in the capital spreadsheet.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Okay, so both of them, he's only asking for 125 right now.
I can
This one
reduce
says
that.
89.
Huh?
I can make that better.
I was gonna say.
You can't use that?
I can make that better. I can ask you
Better
for
or
less.
bigger?
No, I don't want you to ask for less.
Okay, keep going then. We're just trying to be a team player here.
Please note, Lloyd said nothing. Well, somebody said
I'm scared to
something.
say anything, I'm scared to say anything because darts were coming out.
So, as you know, we are continuously out there fixing potholes and fixing roads year-round. And this list that you have here is areas where we have already gone out, cut the pavement or cut the base out of it and fixed those roads that have been wobbly, sunken, whatever, and they are ready to be paved over. I looked over the list here, and at the bottom is around about $89,000. It's just to get this list caught up to speed. But one of them did catch my eye was Crystal Lane at $38,000, and I went out there and checked on that. That was the cost to originally just overlay the entire road. Well, and that was something that's been on the list for over 5 years.
Does it need to be done?
No, well, it actually reduced, its portion of it already been gravelled and pit and fixed. They wound up actually fixing a portion of it that's necessary. So that cost, $38,000, could actually go down to about $5,000 after staff had went out there and did another evaluation. This list has not been updated to reflect that change in quantities. And so you're probably back down to more like $50,000 to $55,000 to cover this list. And these are big wins. If you don't do this, what happens is that gravel stays out there for a while, and eventually I start getting phone calls. When are you going to fix my road? The gravel's washing out, and you probably have all seen it, experienced it. And we really don't try not to get too far ahead. But this is just an odd year for us, and so we could actually have some really great wins, and improve the aesthetics of the village and make a lot of people happy for around $50,000. The only part that I don't know is we should be spending our $80,000 million in overlay budget that we're currently under contract sometime in September. We should burn that up. But I don't know how much is left over to date. We just got some invoices today, and I can catch it up. But for $50,000, I would say for $55,000, I think we can make a lot of folks happy, and then we'll just stop for the year. Okay, as far as creating new patches out there and doing more road prep, and we'll just wait till start this process again next year. So the fourth quarter, we'll just do the absolute necessary to keep roads functional, but we won't do any more paving, so to
And
speak.
all
after
of
that.
these roads have residents on them.
Yes. Now the Crystal Lane one has one house on it, and that really caught my attention. But it's a house that's been there, and the information I got, they have been requesting their road to be fixed for over 5 years, and but I'm happy to say we don't have to pave the entire road to accomplish that.
So that number 38.8 is gonna be what?
I would knock it back down to 5,500.
5,500?
Yeah, that's just shooting from the hip there. That'll cover a lot of area.
Sure. You mean 55,000?
5,500. And then the total down here, if you take out,
Okay, that project,
if you take out 30-something thousand,
Yeah.
you're down to 50-something.
56,
Yeah.
324. Okay.
If you see that. So that's really to make it to the end of the year and kind of get our list caught up for what we've gone out there and disturbed and got kind of prepped. That would cover that, and that would I think that'd be a good ending given the year that we've had.
So I'm gonna get dirty looks again, but you have quite a list on this. That's not up here, but
Right.
down here, and you only gave us the top portion that I handed out.
Yeah, because
But are you telling me that once you get done with this list, there isn't any other roads that will
Nope.
need to be addressed?
no, that's a continuous growing list. What I'm just saying is, here's what we have prepped and ready to go. We have a contractor already under contract that's finishing with a release of some additional funds. We would just simply do a change order and keep him going until he finished this list.
So this is a release of additional money that was already approved.
And
We
Well,
haven't
it's in the
made-
budget, not
Right.
released,
Right.
but in the budget.
Yeah, I'm asking you to release a portion of that 125.
can I ask?
How should I say it?
This is the projects you already had started. The rest of the list is stuff that we haven't started
He's
yet that
asking
you've
for less
identified needs to be addressed.
That's true. The bottom portion of the list is stuff that we haven't gone out and disturbed yet.
It was nice being chairperson, but how I look at it, this is a never-ending list.
It is.
It's
And we
ongoing.
are behind schedule now with repair and maintenance to our roads. Why would we not want to take more, as much money as we can get and go as far into the year as we could get before weather turns bad and repair roads? Why wouldn't you want the whole $125,000?
Well, the paving season, when I use the asphalt contractor, will end at the end of October.
Yes.
It gets cold and gets messy.
Right.
So it's a natural ending point for using the paving contractor. But in-house, my staff can still go and pick up a dump truck load of asphalt and do small patches.
Yeah.
And we will still chase those. And those are small monies, but they do add up over time.
So you're saying this is about the max that your contractor's gonna be able to do by the end of October?
Well, I wouldn't say that, but I would say that's a practical, I would say that's a practical approach for this year, because it's way late in the year to do any big paving projects, you know. It's just way late, and we're not gonna spend it anyway because of budget constraints. So this right, in my opinion, after reviewing this list, these are ready to go, they make a lot of people happy, and we can finish it in a timely manner and regroup for next year.
Right. Don't we have a development that's developing that we have to put a road into? Has that been completed or done?
That's what I call about the dorsal lane road where we need a water line extension.
No, I'm talking about pavement.
Siega's done.
Okay.
It's been done, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's that topic right there, so I hope that's good news.
I think there's 4 houses going up on Ciega.
There's already 5.
5?
And they're, no, I'm assuming they're trying to build them as fast as they can, because they're
Well,
selling.
when you have an inventory of only 84 single-family homes available for sale in the village,
Yeah.
there's gotta be some new building going
I
on.
mean, I would hire some builders, because I think that'd be a good risk. So that's that one issue right there about getting the additional, instead of 125, it'd be coming out of that 125, but I would estimate we wouldn't spend more than $60,000 of it and finish the year out with the paving.
Can I ask Jason, on the lower half, this was what you presented last time, the ones that are marked complete, does that mean the sub-base on those is complete?
They're completed, and you'll see that line has been moved up to the top list, ready to be paved. So you can pick one,
Okay.
and
I see.
it's already moved up to the top list just to be paved. The bottom list are the ones that need the road to be excavated out and base put back in. And a lot of times, our staff will do that part of the project. We'll do that
Because I see a
in-house.
bunch of Perfecto on both. There's different sections of Perfecto.
Yes, there's,
Okay.
but like you said, it's ongoing. That bottom list is that's just the bottom of the page. We got way more in the database.
Well, thank you for conserving paper.
Yeah, but you're telling me you only need 55,000.
Yeah, I'm in the FMP committee. Can I call you back in a minute? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Oh, thank you. That's good news. I'll pass it on.
Somebody tell them, ask for more.
That was the GM. He said the DeSoto Diamante is smooth as butter driving over it. So there's no,
What's he doing going home, is there?
I don't know. He said he's out there inspecting it. So that's where we're at. So any questions on that? If y'all could, I can write a memo to the board tonight for that to be ready.
Don't come back in October and ask for more money because you still have time.
Because Wayne's gonna say, I told you so.
Oh, I can live by that. We can live by that.
I just wish you
There's
had
plenty
more
of other-
time to get more done, because that's a plus for all the villagers when they see the road.
It really is. So if you want to say 75,000, I may not spend it, but if
Well, you don't have to
can push
spend the
it, I'll push it.
55.
Every dollar spent, fixing a road is a win for the village.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, it's a win for the village. It's just,
Just because you have the money doesn't mean you have to spend it. You can always turn it back.
however much
This isn't the
good bill
government.
you want to do. And so whatever you decide on, I'd be glad to write up a memo and have that ready for the board to consider next week if it's possible.
Morris, we'll start with you. What would you like to do?
I'd advise to
I should have never said that.
to do as many of these roads as you can. Because I think it's right. I think that's the biggest impact we can have on the village from an image. And so,
I would like to authorize up to 75. That takes care of this and gives you a little bit of something for whatever comes up, because this is a big deal.
Do I hear 80?
Do I hear 80?
He was hoping for 100. You have 100. John?
I think this is one of the easier softball decisions, because this fits right into the guidance, deferred maintenance streets. I mean, we need to do it, we need to fix it, we need to spend it on, you know, what that money is, I don't know, 56, 66, 76. But, yeah, it needs to happen.
Tom?
What those guys said.
And again, I'll repeat myself, I just want to make sure that we use every dollar that's available to get the roads done in that time frame before it's too cold to put blacktop down. So I kind of want to give you additional money that you don't have to use
Right.
if the time frame's not there. I don't want you paving in November or December. But if you happen to see that we get done by October 15th and there's another 15 days of good weather ahead that we can do additional roads, I think that's important.
I'll keep you posted as we go.
But you know how slow things move
Yeah.
to get
Yeah.
approval, so,
Make it 75, 80, you know, and that's a good,
you need to talk to them on that side.
whatever the motion is, I mean, we'll be glad, whatever amount you agree to, you'll be glad for it.
Now that I said my piece, Lloyd's gonna correct me.
No, I'm not. Well, my only comment was, he's asking for less money.
Karina?
I think we should go forward with it. Like you said, you're only gonna be able to get so much done, but if you go ahead and have a little bit of that contingency for whatever your guys in-house are gonna be able to
Right.
keep doing, even though your big contractor can't come out because it's too cold.
Right,
So I think the 75, 80,000, if you think
Yeah.
that's plenty,
that would work.
and then readdress the first of the year.
Gary?
I've heard a lot of noise about, why aren't we fixing roads? Why aren't we fixing roads? And, of course, well, that would be my point. Go as much as we can.
Okay. Any other discussion? Anybody wanna make a motion?
I move and give Jason what he wants regarding the.
Oh, wait a minute.
Street repair.
Wait a minute.
Up to and including, up to and including,
Let me pick it out of my other pocket
up
here.
to and including, you know, gonna give him a cap for just approve the 56,000. To approve what's on this list. And if you need any more, then you'll come and present it to us. If we have any more time left over.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify, oh, any more discussion? Anybody wanna discuss anything?
What was the final amount?
He chiseled me down
Yeah.
to complete this list.
Okay, no matter what the cost is, if you go,
Well, you said about 59,000,
Yeah.
so we're not, but we would like this list to be completed.
I got you. I don't expect it to cost more than,
Is that agreeable? Is that what you were?
Yeah,
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, I'll call for a vote. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion is carried.
Just so it's not, all opposed, just so it's not unanimous. I'd like to see more money, but
oh, well, appreciate that.
I'm in a minority.
All right, next thing, Jason was wanting to talk about the Dorsey Lane water main extension, $17,000. He just sent this to me. So you can bring up everybody to speed.
I mean, mentioned that last week. We have a home being built at, not a home, excuse me, a storage facility built at 1099 DeSoto Boulevard. This was a Cooper Communities reserve property that was sold. And under our, I believe it's our or declaration or protective covenants, we are required to extend water services to these new facilities within a reasonable time frame. And the only thing that's missing is a water service. The deal is that we do have to run a water service about a quarter of a mile down Dorsal Lane, and because the sewer's already there. And the quantities on the materials that we've estimated around, it's just under $17,000, it's 16 something. And we plan to build that in-house during October, November, and try to get that going, or as soon as we can get the materials. Because they have already requested for a water service, and I don't want that to become an issue, them waiting on us to get water to their facility.
Well, plus it's required in the declaration, so.
It is.
Yeah.
So I do have I already have a payment authorization, we already have a bid, and if I need to go to the board with this, let me know, I'll do a memo tonight for that, and we'll go to the board, or
Does this not go through your regular operating budget?
it does.
So it's not a capital expense?
It is a capital.
Well,
It is a capital expense, but they're required to do it. It's not an above and beyond.
Right.
No, it's not really an
It's not an
option.
option.
what was do you know what the connection fee was charged for the water? Do you know what the department,
They're around $1,300 something for a sewer or a water connection. That's the fees for this year. Next year, we may break them out into short and long services, and they'd be anywhere from $600 to 2,000, some type stuff. But so that's an average cost that we're charging this year for them.
so we're gonna spend I know it's mandatory, we're gonna spend $17,000 to extend a water line that they're gonna pay $1,300 for the hook.
Exactly, and that's the conundrum of our situation here in the village is we've got situations like that occurring. But I do want you to know that we evaluated all various other alternatives that we could get a water line to this location. And the other one was actually boring across the Soto Boulevard. It was at least $12,000 to $13,000 just to bore underneath the Soto Boulevard and bring water to this one piece of property where if you bring it down Dorsal Lane, now you've got a road with all the utilities and power that could be, now it's very easy to develop. Those properties have some added value and they could build a house there now that could help stimulate the payback on that. So it's,
Not to worry, we'll make it up in volume.
It's at the end of the road, so they're piping it so multiple other lots can
yeah,
tap in.
there's several
So is
lots
this
that
for a
would-
resident or for a commercial?
It's commercial.
Is that where the real estate office is being built?
No, right across from the church at is it Goose Pond Road, I believe? You know Pastor G's church, whatever his church is, right there on DeSoto. It's right across.
Okay.
We know where we had to relocate the trail.
Yeah,
That's where it's at.
okay.
And I looked, this may be stupid, but I drove through it after one of our last meetings, and I also looked at property ownership. There's Dorsal Lane. You go down and then go, it's almost a straight line. I think that's the lane.
Right.
And all of the properties on that street were owned by the POA, or were in tax
Mm-hmm.
deferment or whatever that is. There's like 4 properties on the, I think it was Dorsal Way.
Mhm.
Is there an option to do one or the others?
This one's
Does it
going
make much
down
difference?
Dorsal Lane at this
Lane.
time.
And would it be more expensive or less to do Way? And might we want to check with those 4 property owners to see, one's in Oklahoma, one is, they don't look like immediate builders, but I thought it was a consideration.
Yeah, I don't know, but one of the things that's kind of good about that is, Sega Lane is just across Via Harrell, Via Gerald right there, and of course right there, that's where the new real estate building's going in. That whole area could be stimulated by all this, and so that road is in an area where there could be, housing stimulation, and so I think it's the best choice for the best ROI potential that we could get, given the circumstances we're stuck with doing it.
And then how much do you think the in-house portion of it will cost? 'Cause that's gotta be.
Oh,
$70.
if I was a contractor, I used to take, and I was an engineer, I used to do cost estimates, I would take the material cost and times it by a 2.3 multiplier.
Okay.
And that would cover my, my labor costs and maybe a little bit of overhead, a little bit of profit. So you figure,
So at least two
yeah.
for hitting the profit side of it, kind of.
Right, so you are paying labor, it's already budgeted,
Right.
but that's labor that could be allocated to doing something else,
Right.
but now will be allocated to doing this, which is part of the job here. So, can I just move forward with that, or would y'all like me to take that to the board?
Well,
Everything has to go to the board.
Okay.
I guess I'm wondering procedurally if this is part of the operating budget. I know we put a kind of a moratorium on spending, but this has to be done via the declarations.
Right.
So is it, I don't know whether this kind of an expenditure.
I don't think you have a choice, you're mandated by rules.
I mean, we're just talking about,
And-
if I can just bring it to the board's attention at the next Wednesday's meeting, yes, I can, waiting 1 week's not gonna hurt anything.
Well, the way we set it up this year, though, we kind of have to vote on it.
Yeah.
If it comes to the board, so,
This is kind of like the dam, the cleanup of the face of the dams. It's a requirement from the state, and it was in his operational budget, and we just signed it. But he did bring it a memo, and everybody kind of told him really didn't need to go to the board because it's part of his operation.
well, that's the way I'm feeling about this one, too.
Yeah.
Mhm. It's gonna require the GM and a board member's signature
Well,
on it.
and, yeah, because you're buying off on it, the treasurer as a representative of the board is buying off on it, and the GM is buying off on it. So that kind of an expense, I'm not sure needs to be tied up waiting for the board to
Yeah.
approve something that has to be done.
Just do the PA.
Okay.
We'll get Charles to sign, and I'll sign.
Okay, thank you very much.
Make your life a little more easier.
Man, we're making a lot of progress today, thank you very much.
You have anything else you want to buy?
You're leaving now, right?
I can. Unless there's
before
any
you-
questions. I think I sent you responses to the questions that I was asked, at the last meeting.
I just gave that to Lloyd,
That's probably something to ponder on, and,
Okay. Thank
Okay.
you.
thank you very much. The hired beggar is now leaving.
you got what you wanted.
Yeah.
Could have had more.
Appreciate your help, thank you very much.
Thanks, Jason.
Congratulations on the bump.
Okay, do we have any, we'll move on to reports of working groups. Tom, do you have anything you want to add?
Well, we have managed to meet once in the last 2 weeks, and we started looking at marketing. I think we made good progress. We identified a potential goal for marketing. Actually, some of it was discussed as I walked in. But we still have a ways to go just for marketing, and then we'll start looking at other issues.
Are you bringing Ray Neiman in to your meetings for that?
We
Since
have
he's
not.
That might be a good thing to get him to come in.
Okay, we can do
He's the
that.
marketing chairperson,
Yeah.
and it's probably better if we all kind of work together so we're not duplicating
Mhm.
or going in different directions.
Yeah, because they would have been a subset of this, and now they're all standing committee,
Right.
so.
We can do that.
Not only that, but, and here's, in meeting with the groups, well, just piggyback off this a little bit, but in meeting with the groups, and speaking to the marketing manager as well. He's out there too, and I'm struggling to see a connection between the marketing work we're doing in here, the marketing manager over here, and then the marketing committee over here. I think that right now they're three distinct entities and they're not talking to one another. And I think it would be beneficial at some point in time to figure
Well,
out.
from a high level, we were hoping to sort of go through this exercise with staff in general, in which case, marketing, we presume, would be part of that, but so would all the other,
Yeah, I don't
divisions.
know when it might be
So,
appropriate,
right.
but it's at some point.
Right.
yeah.
I mean, we definitely agree that In terms of coming up with goals, our general vision was to have the board involved and staff involved, and then try to see, you know, given the different points of view, what big fat goals we could come up with. So, but not everything always works out exactly the way you want to. So,
Well, if you get Ray and a couple of his people to come in and sit down and maybe
we'll do.
that'll be a start, and then we can bring management in, once we get kind of closer together, see how that fits.
Right.
I think I've mentioned this before, but as part of the strategic planning, particularly as it relates to next year, I'd like to encourage that the group be giving information to the board on what they think the 2021 goals and objectives should be. In some form that we can put out to people, and for instance to the GM, as a obtainable goal that he needs to shoot for next year, in relation to, you know, I don't know that we're going to be able to tag anything on revenues with not knowing what's going to happen with COVID, but things on labor to revenue ratio and things of that nature that they could have some more control over. Our labor to revenue ratio has, if you include contract labor, has grown a little bit out of control.
You said it was like 46.5% or something.
It's like 49.5%.
Okay.
And what wasn't in that number was apparently the utilization of contract staff.
Gates,
Yeah.
sanitation.
I don't
I
really
don't
like
even know
that.
about Gates because that's a totally separate, that's not put down in the compensation line.
Some contract.
I'm not sure that's
Along
the
with-
best metric either for
Same.
measure. I mean,
Yeah.
if I want to do that ratio, then I would just go get all of those automatic trashers and then I'd let 40 people go.
Right. No, you can't.
I mean,
just
you gotta, if you can automate and get that number
down.
way down.
Right.
So you
Yeah.
gotta, it's more than just that 49.5, is
and because you've got to have a balance of stuff that's obviously obtainable. And to set a goal on one without recognizing what impact it could have on the overall operations is not a good idea, but it's just something I thought I'd bring up again, that the board would appreciate any input, particularly as we're moving into 2021, and this COVID thing that could be used as benchmarks and some goals and objectives we want to accomplish next year.
So how far out are you on that?
A ways.
2022?
Hopefully not that long. I would say even if we got through, you know, one major topic a week, and so far we've had a hard time doing that, that would probably, we're talking probably 8 weeks, and that would be optimistic, I would say.
Can you get us
Probably
something in
marketing.
6?
Well, you give us a target, and we're just gonna have to bite the bullet
We
and
may have
meet the target.
Find
One of
the
the things
day.
Probably marketing has the most impact, that's the one we're
That-
working.
that is probably the
That's
hardest.
the key one,
Yeah.
is to get those 150 new houses that Kathy wants in
And
3 years.
Maybe
Ruben, I
getting,
didn't pick it from the year,
maybe getting Ray Lehman here and Paul Daly, who has an extensive experience, and maybe they can help bring stuff together, because we are in the midst of budgeting, and that will close in October to present it to the board in November. So we're kind of, if we don't have some targets, the GM's gonna have a tough time trying to follow through, otherwise it's gonna be 2022 before we see it.
Well, help me out a little bit here. Is the GM working on his own strategic plan, and then we're gonna work on something too? I mean, is he working on a strategic plan?
Well, he's working on some things that he would like to see in areas, for instance, food and beverage, golf,
Or what I'm saying, if he knew we were working on marketing, he's not gonna do something on marketing, or
No, I'm not-
are we gonna be, well, that's what,
Yeah.
are we just,
At some point in time, you need to be involving him in the discussions.
Yeah. And that
Because
was
you
what we-
need to see what he's got going on here. Strategy still gets set at the board level, but it needs to be in concert with, what the GM thinks he can get accomplished, and, that's where you get the reasonableness of this stuff settled down, so.
because we just picked out, says, we wanna work on these 9 chapters, okay? We want marketing, we want this, and that's what we see, but that might not be his vision at all.
Well,
But
and.
that's why we're gonna have the meetings with both staff and him,
Yes.
if possible. It's just we wanted to give him a little time to settle in before we even.
And
requested
I
him
think
to
he's
leave.
getting close to the point where he could dedicate some time to providing input into some of these committees and that kind of thing for what he sees too, because it has to be melded in,
Yeah.
so that we can pull it all together at the budget time.
So if you pull some of the marketing committee people in at your next session and things melt pretty good together and you guys have a consensus, then maybe your next meeting with the marketing people, get the general manager to come in and listen to your ideas and get his input to see what he would like or what his ideas were. And then maybe out of your 3 different groups, you can come up with somewhat of a plan.
Yeah.
You guys gotta, to me, you guys also have to include Paul Sage, the marketing manager.
Yeah.
He's the marketing manager, and we're not including him in any of this right now. And he's sitting up there trying to come up with ideas of his own, and that's what I pulled out
Right.
in talking to him. I'm working on it, but,
And Kevin Sexton too.
yeah, so he's a triad right there. You get a triad, Paul Sage, you get a couple of members of the marketing marketing committee, and then you guys.
Yep.
3 legs of the stool.
Any other discussion on planning? We'll move to budgeting.
All right, well, finished the zero budget meetings last week, fire, police, and then several areas for Stephanie Hepper's group. So those are completed. Working backwards, correct me if I'm wrong, Karina, but working backwards, I think. Lloyd did mention that the board would like to have a draft of the budget, first cut of the budget at a work session in October.
Either at the work session or the first board meeting.
Okay, so that date is up in the air right now, to be determined. I see on your schedule tomorrow at your work session. One of the things you're gonna talk about is the schedule of work, schedule of work sessions or. So anyway, that date is to be determined, but working backwards from that, a couple of weeks prior to that, whatever that date ends up being, we need you to bring it to this group.
And I've still gotta get with Charles, cause we met, Friday with our last group, I believe it was.
Yeah.
So I haven't had a chance to talk to him since to get the schedule, to go over all of them in-house. Everybody's deadline is to have it to me by the end of this week, first of next week. And then we'll start to review those over the next couple of weeks and then hopefully be able to present to the MP.
Yeah, and I would say the board is a little bit flexible on when this gets presented, but typically what we've done in the past is we've had division managers do presentations of their budgets to the board and kind of to the public at one time at a board meeting.
Right.
But that wasn't obviously the final budget, and then it would be after that some tweaks might happen at the board level back to staff before a final budget was brought to this group to recommend to the board, if that's.
So we went to the board and then got tweaked and went to the Finance and Planning Committee for approval and then went back to the board.
It has to go to the board for final approval
Well,
in the November meeting.
Sorry, maybe I misstated that.
Okay.
But it was board, tweaked again, and then the Finance and Planning Committee, and then they submitted for approval to the board, so.
Well, I'd leave that up to Wayne.
I'm lost.
I thought that's what he had said, that's why I was asking for clarification.
No, we're waiting for the department heads to submit their budget for you and
Yes.
Charles to review.
Yes.
Once you've gone through and done that line item, then we would like you to come here and present that to the committee so we can go through it and make sure it makes sense to us. And then you'll have to go back and fine tune it. And then we talked about having a public session, but we don't know if the board wants that. To do the dog and pony show under COVID, how are we gonna do that in that? And then, once everything's done, I would like to see the department heads come in and give the presentation of their budgets as kind of a trial deal, and then, to our committee, and then be able to do that to the board in November.
Okay, so is it to this committee twice?
You mean the presentation?
Yes.
No, once.
Well, the first cut by her, by you bringing.
By
Okay,
you.
that's what I'm
That, yeah,
asking.
First cut by you
First-
bringing it,
first
put
one's
it
by
out
me,
there.
Second one's by
this,
each
go through
division
that.
leader.
Right.
Okay,
And let them go through and do a practice run, and then we can ask them questions and justifications, and it'll help them be prepared to answer board questions.
I'm following.
But if we don't make a fairly succinct presentation to the board at the October board meeting, and now the board is involved, we're not likely to get an approval by November 15th
We want to present to the board November 15th.
Yes,
for final,
Yeah.
and in September for the preliminary,
October.
October, I mean.
Yeah.
Maybe at a work session.
Yeah, I wrote down work session.
Which would be
or-
fine.
Okay.
Unless you want to go
Sorry.
through 6 or 7 drafts, budget
It's just
drafts,
go
like
back
you did
and
last
forth.
time.
Like they did last year, that's what we're trying to avoid.
Okay, so what I wrote down, just to see.
Thank you.
Yeah, please summarize all that.
Yeah, and this, believe me, it's subject to correction. Basically, the departments will get them to accounting, then they'll do the first cut to the finance and planning. Then there'll be a public presentation, possibly, or to be determined. Then the department heads will do a presentation to the finance and planning, and then it'll go to the board.
Yeah, I think the only thing I would see flip-flopped on that would be that it needs to come to the Finance and Planning Committee before it goes to the public.
Before public.
I had,
Yeah, do the presentations before it goes to the public? Because I had finance and planning, then public, and then a presentation with the department heads. But
I'm not sure we're going to be able to do the public like we've done in the
Yeah.
past.
But that's the piece I think is kind of up in the air,
Yeah.
but this committee should see and feel comfortable with a budget before it goes to the public.
Right, absolutely.
Okay,
I had,
so finance and planning, and then for tweaking, and then department heads do the presentation, and then we'll make a
Yeah,
decision as to.
depending on what COVID
Yeah.
does, we may have to skip that step this year.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
skip
mean-
it or do a modified version,
Right.
just to satisfy the fact that people need to be heard.
Well, and we can record it.
Yeah,
I've been in years past, there's been 40 people there, you know,
Yeah.
and, you know, if we put a max on it, like we do at a lot of these other events that we're having, max of 30 people, max of 40, you know, they can all be spaced out enough if the board really wanted to have a public presentation.
Yeah, and we haven't gotten into that discussion yet.
So each of the steps then, backing up from the 15th, you're the one most close to this because you're in it with Charles. So I think you're probably in best position to put the dates where these things need to happen. And maybe at the next meeting, present that
I will.
to us.
Can I have those tomorrow morning by 9?
I'll give you preliminary dates.
Preliminary by now. But then I'm, what was I gonna
Are you done, John?
say? Yeah,
All right, we'll move on.
I'm done until committee member comments.
Any new business? All right, we'll go with committee member comments, and we'll start with Morris. Do you have any comments?
No, sir, I'm good.
Kathy?
ditto.
Tom?
I'm good.
Lloyd?
I do. I attended one of the budget planning meetings, and I'd just like to say congratulations to John for a job well done. That it was interactive, it was enjoyable, and it was a good interaction between the people. So good job, John.
I appreciate that, thank you, thank you. All right. I got a lot out of it, I had some good help too, so I don't want to overlook that. But my comments, you ready for me now? Mike?
Yes, sir. You're up.
Yeah, I am going to take a lot of what I learned. You mentioned the labor ratio, labor to ratio. They are going to vary, I think, by department. Hearing what the fire department had to say, the fire department has a budget that this year's budget called for 50% overtime. 50% overtime, and he explained why. And you heard it. He's got some tough obstacles with the pay, the continuity, the turnover, all that good stuff. So it's not going to be easy, but we can certainly set up individual department goals. Another comment then is Mr. Alliard has been a member of this committee. Is he still a member of this committee?
Dan?
Huh?
Dan?
Dan?
No, he submitted his resignation Friday evening.
Okay, that's what I thought. So we have
Another spot.
Okay. That's all I have.
Okay, Karina?
No.
All right. Gary, do you have any words of wisdom?
I wish I did, but I'd just like to say it's been a good discussion. I like to hear pros and cons because no one has a single answer to everything, so I think it's great to hear these discussions.
Okay. And we don't have any guests, so we don't have to worry about that. Our next meeting, 2 weeks? Is that agreeable?
No.
I don't even know what day that is. 22nd, 23rd?
22nd.
I don't know what day today is.
21st is on a Friday.
Today's the 8th. so
Today
it'll be
is
the
Monday,
22nd.
so to be 22nd, yeah. 22nd.
All right. With that, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned. Thank you.